And this price point is very close to EC pricing at this point because the Senja plot was won at 771 PSF, which is just a 6% price gap. Hi guys, so it's been a happening year in real estate in 2025, and as we wrap up the new year, I thought it would be good to give some insight as to what we can expect for the new launches in 2026. So as you can see, our main topic for today is to give an overview of the new launches in 2026, as well as give a ranking for what I feel are the top 3 launches to look out for this year. And of course, you also must be wondering, why is there a dark horse here? We will reveal that later on in the video. So as always, my goal in these videos is to provide objective and data-driven content that will aid you in your real estate journey, so do remember to subscribe if you find the content useful. So before we touch on the main topic of the video, I thought it would be good to give a quick review of the launches in 2025. So, in the first quarter of 2025, we got started with projects in the OCR. Okay, of course, we had projects like Orel. Okay, we had Lentor Central Residences, and we also had Parktown Residences. And they all started hot, of course, and sold around 90% or higher after the first day launch. And as we started the second half of 2025, the focus was more towards the core central region area. So we had projects like Promenade Peak, which sold more than half the units on launch day. We also saw Wing Tai sell 88% for River Green on launch day, which was a very impressive feat. And the momentum carried on with CDL selling 84% at Zion Grand on launch day as well. Okay, this strong momentum carried on further with all the disappointed buyers who did not manage to secure units at these launches. Okay, they actually tried their luck at Skye Holland as well as Penrith. And as you can see, they sold 99% and 97% all on the first day, which is almost a sellout basically. And after the frenzy, we had one more launch for the end of the year, which was the Sand at Upper Bukit Timah. However, as you can see, the launch result was pretty muted, around 3% of the units sold during the launch day. And a lot of buyers were wondering, was this poor result due to fatigue in the new launches, or did they feel that launches are they getting overpriced, And also, is this a signal for things to come in 2026? Will the 2026 launches also move slowly also? So we'll review and take a look. So this is a summarized map showing most of the launches that will be happening in 2026, along with some of the important information such as the land acquisition prices. So if you'd like a copy of this, do feel free to DM me. So the big question many clients have been asking, with the prices that are so high now, are there still good value launches to consider, or will things slow down in 2026? So this will be the summary of today's video. So firstly, we'll be going through the basis and the criteria for which we are ranking the launches on. Secondly, we will go through one by one all the launches happening in 2026 by the region, the North, Northeast, Central, and the East and West. Next, we'll give our verdict on the top 3 launches that we think, will be the best for you to consider. And one more thing is that we'll also review Dark Horse project, one that I believe will be a good investment in the medium to long term, but it may not be the most obvious choice at first glance, so do watch to the end to find out. So now we'll go through the 3 main criteria for ranking the launches. So the first one will be the land cost for the project. So in other words, this is the land acquisition cost per square foot average that the developer paid to purchase the land plot. And this is an important point to have because we can use this to determine the developer's break-even pricing to develop the plot of land and ultimately have an educated guess on what they will eventually launch at. Of course, they know that just because sometimes the developer does buy the land plot cheaper than expected, it does not necessarily mean they also sell cheaper. So that's something we have to look up. But we use that as a basis point. So an example here would be at Norwood Grand, where the developer purchased the land for $904 per square foot per plot ratio in September 2023, with the break-even PSF at 1687 per square foot. So we use this break-even price to calculate how much they might sell at based on the following profit margins. So and in the end, the average transacted PSF for Norwood Grand was 2063 per square foot, which is quite accurate based on the land price and the educated guess as well. So next, the second criteria we'll be looking at will be the typical location attributes, things like the proximity to the amenities, transport, as well as schools. And the third criteria we'll use are the project attributes. So for the purposes of this video, we will only review projects with more than 200 units with a land size of at least 50,000 square feet. And we will also look at the developer profiles for the project. And lastly, we'll also review only private condo projects and not ECs, which we can cover in a separate video. So now we'll go through the launches in the 2026 project map, and for easier understanding, we shall go through by the respective regions. So we will first go through the North and Northeast region. So based on the criteria, the ones that we will go through are the launches in Chuan Grove, 2 of them over here. We also have Thomson View, Lentor Gardens, the Upper Thomson Road Parcel A, as well as Chencharu Close. We also have one that came up very recently, so it's not in this map. That's actually the one at Hougang Central. Then that one caused quite a stir, so we'll touch on that later. So the first launch we'll go through is at Chuan Grove. So there were actually two parcels that were bid over here, next to each other. Right over here. And the interesting thing is that they were won by the same developer, Sing Holdings. They are even considering, based on the recent updates, to amalgamate both land plots to sell as one single big land plot. So in terms of the location, it's in the OCR locality, and it's largely a residential estate with not too many amenities nearby. But the good thing is that Lorong Chuan MRT is just within a few minutes walk. New Tech Park is also next door, which has some eateries and also a supermarket. But I would say the factor that caused the stir was the land bid pricing. If you look at the land price, it was actually bid at 1376 and 1331 per square foot respectively, which many felt was quite a high price for the area. After we factor in their break-even costs, these land plots could potentially sell at an average of $2,700 to $3,000 per square foot. And Chuan Park, which is right over here, next to Lorong Chuan MRT, it recently launched in the area and sold pretty well. And generally the per square foot was lower. So there's a good chance that at this price point, these Chuan Grove plots will maybe take slightly longer to move, in my opinion. The next one is a highly anticipated one because this is the Enbloc at Thomson View. So, for those people who go to Thomson often enough, it's quite traditionally a very popular area because it's a cozy, low-density residential estate. Lots of nature parks nearby. There's a lot of good food and restaurants around. So, I would say for this plot, it's especially popular because it's a huge plot at 500,000 square feet, which has a lot of potential for nice landscaping and facilities. And it's also in the RCR region, which is City Fringe. So with UOL and Capital Land backing this project, I believe they will do a great job in the planning of the project itself. So the land price over here was bid at 1178 per square foot per plot ratio, which looks low on paper for such a location, but do take note that this may not include other charges for the en bloc of the land and also the demolition costs. So this is an estimated selling price based on the land price of the development, but in reality, I would say probably have to assume $2,700 to $2,900 per square foot. Next up, we have Lentor Gardens by Kingsford. So honestly, I cannot really say that I'm too excited about this plot because this is the 7th plot launching here in the last 4 years or so. Of course, Lentor Gardens by Kingsford is over here. And previously, we had the likes of Lentor Modern, Lentor Central, Hillock Green, Lentor Hills, Lentor Mansion, Lentoria. For this Lentor Gardens plot itself, I would say, it's also the furthest walk to the MRT compared to the rest, which is less ideal. But I'll say the land cost over here is pretty low compared to the rest. So this land plot was actually purchased at $920 per square foot per plot ratio. So I would say, if you're looking at a affordable launch, this will be one to look at. Next, we have the upcoming plot at Upper Thomson, Parcel A. So this is the one that's right next to Springleaf MRT. Also next to Springleaf Residences, that sold exceptionally well this year. But again, I can't say I'm very excited about this one because there's really nothing much in Springleaf at this point other than the fact that the MRT is right next door. Of course, there are some popular eateries opposite. You have Casuarina Curry and other eateries like those. But I'll say, perhaps buyers who bought Springleaf Residences, they will be quite happy. I actually put the land pricing here to compare. So Springleaf Residences was actually purchased at $905 per square foot per plot ratio. And Springleaf Parcel A was actually purchased at 1062 per square foot per plot ratio. And that's around $160 PSF more than Springleaf. So this would likely indicate that Parcel A will be selling at higher prices. So, I'll say this project may also not move too fast. We will now discuss the land plot at Chencharu Close. And to be honest, when this land plot was purchased, I had no idea where this was. It looks like it's one. I'll say at first glance, it looks like it's one of the first few launches in the Khatib area. So despite the location, being on paper, quite ulu for most, I think this would be an interesting one, given that there hasn't been many projects in this vicinity. I'll just be a bit wary because the land price was acquired at $980 per square foot per plot ratio, which means that they are likely to sell above $2,000 PSF, and at this price point for this locality, it remains to be seen whether it will move fast or not. So we'll see. The last one we will review for the region is the one that everyone in Hougang has been waiting for. This is the land plot that probably all those who bought Florence Residences have been waiting for to have more price appreciation for their own project. Hougang Central has been hugely anticipated because this is a huge plot at over 500,000 square feet. And the key attraction is that this is an integrated project with commercial shops. And it will also be the future interchange with the Cross Island line, which will be quite a game changer. And based on the land price at 1179 per square foot per plot ratio, we are likely to see this Hougang project eventually selling at 2,500 PSF on average. So some people might think, 2,500 PSF Hougang is a bit crazy. But of course, if we learn anything from Parktown Residences when they launched in Tampines North, Singaporeans really love their convenience. So despite the high price, I think this project could still fare well. Okay, so next we'll go through the launches in the central area. So we'll discuss the plots at Telok Blangah, Dorsett Road. We also have River Modern and Holland Link and Dunearn Road. We also have one that also was bid very recently. It was actually this Bukit Timah plot near Newton MRT. And that one also raised a lot of eyebrows because of the price. We'll touch on that later. So the first one we'll go through is the plot at Telok Blangah, won by Kingsford. So this will be an interesting one because this is the first private residential plot launching in the new Berlayer estate, which is situated at the former Keppel Club. So of course, residents here will reap the benefits of the Greater Southern Waterfront transformation eventually, and they stand to be the first mover in this area. I would say the land price at 1,325, 1,326 per square foot per plot ratio is pretty good value given the prime location. And this could translate to a selling price of 2,600 to 2,900 PSF on average. So in general, I think this project will probably fare pretty well because the price point is pretty fair for such a prime location. So let's see. Next, we have this residential plot at Dorsett Road, which is won by United Venture Development. So I would say that objectively, the location of the project is great. Farrer Park is so close to town as well as the CBD. But I would say in reality, Farrer Park is not a place that Singaporeans will naturally think for own stay. But I'll say, with the government planning all the transformation in the Farrer Park area in the upcoming years, with lots of the BTOs upcoming as well, this will help to enhance the livability of the area. And the land price at 1,338 per square foot per plot ratio is also very fair given the location. And also, in the end, the estimated selling price at 2,700 to 2,800 perhaps is very fair. So I predict, the sales might fare pretty well. Seeing that, nearby Piccadilly Grand also sold pretty well as well. Next up, we have River Modern. So if you have been following the River Valley launches so far, this launch should be under your radar if you have not secured a unit yet. So in terms of the location, most buyers have said that this is the most prime out of the plots launched so far. So for the River Modern plot that's over here, it's located in District 9, unlike the counterparts like Promenade Peak and Zion Grand, which are located in District 3 and RCR. So I'll say, this location really has everything. It's close to Great World MRT, it's close to Great World City, Zion Riverside, there's hawker food, there's the Singapore River, there's Robertson Quay nearby, there's also a primary school within 1 km. It really has everything, as well as the iconic Singapore River. Based on their land price, at 1,420 per square foot per plot ratio, we could potentially see the project averaging above $3,000 per square foot. And I will say, based on the success of the other launches, I do think that given the strategic position of this land plot, this project should sell fairly well. The next project is an interesting one. Sim Lim won this land bid in Holland Link with this aggressive land bid at 1,432 per square foot per plot ratio. It's considered high relative to the land bid won at Skye Holland, which was over $1,200 per square foot per plot ratio. And this will be the first project launching in the old Holland Road vicinity. In general, it's a nice, tranquil residential enclave. Well, I would say, accessibility could be an issue because it's quite far from Campbell Park MRT. However, it is likely that the people staying in this area, in the Bukit Timah area, would most likely drive. So this may not be a problem for some of the buyers. But I'll say the key winning factor is that it's within close vicinity to MGS. So this launch should fare pretty well. Continuing the Bukit Timah series, we have a plot won by Frasers at Dunearn Road. So this project will appeal to those who want the 6th Avenue address. Also, seeing that it's very close to 6th Avenue MRT. And it's also going to be the first few launches coming within the Turf Club area, which will be interesting. And based on the estimated selling price, based on the land price of 1,410 per square foot, they may eventually sell at 2,008 to 3,000 PSF over. So I believe the fans of this area will eventually come in. But the big question is, with this popular area for freehold lovers, will buyers be willing to pay this price for leasehold? We will see eventually. So the last central project we will discuss is the one that caused a massive stir. This was the land bid won by HH Investments at Bukit Timah. And this was the plot that's actually right behind Newton MRT. This project will naturally draw a lot of interest because of the proximity to town as well as the MRT. But the key driver will be that it's really close to the schools like ACS and SCGS. The land bid here blew the scale of expectations because it was won at 1,820 per square foot per plot ratio. So will buyers be willing to pay, potentially 3,500 to 3,700 PSF for leasehold in this area? My initial thoughts is that it will take time for this price to be absorbed for this locality. So I do believe this project will move slower than expected. Okay, we are done with the central projects. Now we will head to the west. So we will discuss about the launches in Media Circle, Tengah Garden, Lakeside Drive, okay, of course, Narra Residences at Dairy Farm Walk as well. So the first west side project we will discuss is at Media Circle Parcel A. Honestly, nothing too exciting because this year Bloomsbury Residence also launched next door. Okay, this project is also not near to the MRT by any means. Okay, nearest is actually One North, which is quite a far distance away, and it's in a vicinity largely surrounded by office buildings. So this project will likely be more skewed for investment, or if you're an own stay buyer who likes a very ulu area, you're away from people, you're all quite low rise. So this will appeal if you're one of those groups. One highlight of this project is the fact that the developer who won the plot also at the Bloomsbury Residences, they are both Xingjian Realty, and they won this land bid at 1037 per square foot per plot ratio, which is lower than the land bid for Bloomsbury, which is at 1191 per square foot. But whether, even though the land price was lower, whether they decide to sell lower than Bloomsbury is another story, because since the same developer won the bid, it's not likely that they will shoot themselves in the foot and lower their price too much. I'll say, however, it does present an opportunity if the developer does decide to launch at a softer price range initially during launch. Next up, we go further west to Tengah. So the developer profile looks good, with Hong Leong and Gorko Land helming this project. Location-wise, it's next to the upcoming Hongkar MRT station. But at this point, there are not too many amenities surrounding the project as this area is still within development. The developer won this land at only $821 per square foot per plot ratio, which could mean that they could launch at prices starting from even 1,900 PSF, which is very good value in today's market. So I think this project might fare pretty well. Now we go to Lakeside, with CDL winning the bid at Lakeside Drive, which will be a mixed development with both residential and commercial elements. So a lot of the Westside fans have been eagerly anticipating this one, especially being right next to Lakeside MRT. And being next to the Jurong Lake Gardens itself is also a very big plus, as well as having Rulang Primary within 1 km. The land price at 1132 per square foot doesn't look too overpriced, so if they do sell starting from around 2,300 PSF, I'll say this development should sell pretty well. We shall now discuss Narra Residences at Dairy Farm. So this is a project that will largely appeal to fans of the Upper Bukit Timah area or the Dairy Farm vicinity. The appeal of this area lies mostly with the fact that there's a lot of the nature parks surrounding nearby. It's not very close to the MRT at all, so transport arrangements have to be managed, especially with kids. This is also the third launch here to launch in the last few years. The last being the Botany as well as Dairy Farm Residences. And I'll say, based on the land price of 1,020 per square foot, they should be launching on an average of around 2,200 PSF, although the guide pricing does have units starting from 1,009. So given that there's been quite a bit of supply in this area recently, this project should may move a bit slower during the initial launch. We are done now with the west side projects. Now we will discuss the east side developments. With the Bayshore plot, we also have Pinery Residences, as well as this Bedok Rise plot that was won very recently. So this plot at Bayshore, I'll say, is blockbuster level, especially for the east side lovers. Ever since this land plot was bought by Sing Hai, we have been getting continuous inquiries regarding this project. This plot has been raved about for so many reasons. Firstly, is the first project here that will launch within the Bayshore vicinity, on the new Bayshore estate as well. And secondly, is right next to the Bayshore MRT. And thirdly, there hasn't been a launch here since the highly successful Seaside Residences. And honestly, if you look at the land price, it's on the higher side at 1,388 per square foot per plot ratio. And the estimated selling price, could potentially start from 2,700 and high floors will go up to 3,000 PSF. Is this price high? I'll say maybe at first glance, but honestly, most Eastsiders will still throw their checks here just for the chance of getting a unit there. Now on to a launch towards the Tampines side of the east. So Pinery Residences by Hoi Hub will be launching, and the location actually looks pretty good. It's right across the road from the downtown line at Tampines West MRT. And although there are no big malls nearby, there's Safra Tampines with some eateries. There's also Bedok Reservoir towards this direction, which is quite nice for your evening walks and runs. The land bid price was at 1,004 per square foot, so we should see prices starting from around 2,000 PSF. I will say this price point is quite accessible, and given its proximity to the MRT, this project should sell pretty well. This land bid by All Green for Bedok Rise caused a very big stir. Mainly this is due to the fact that the land was bid at 1330 per square foot per plot ratio. Just for reference, the land bids at this is actually higher than land bids at the CCR launches at Zion Grand and Promenade Peak, which is quite shocking lah. So this development is located right over here and is next to Tanah Merah MRT, which is a very big plus. But I'll say this project will face a lot of resale competition, from all the surrounding projects. And based on their estimated selling price, starting from probably 2.6, based on the land pricing, I would say this project will probably sell slow initially. So we've come to the end of the run through of all the projects for 2026. So if you watch till here, I'm very appreciative. Now we will touch on what you have been waiting for, which is my verdict on the top 3 launches for 2026. Okay, so in third place, we have River Modern. Okay, as mentioned earlier, this location and project really has everything. Okay, the District 9 address, we have the CCR locality, we have the schools, we have the mall, MRT, as well as the even hawker centers nearby. This would be the 4th project launching around Great World in the past year. So, as you can see here, right, there aren't too many choices for the balance units that have already been launched. And we can see River Green, they've already sold 91% of all their total units. Promenade Peak having sold 66%, more than half, and Zion Grand having already sold 86% at this point of time, which is, I'll say, most of the inventory from the first day of launch. But I'll say the big advantage of having seen these launches happen first is that we can spot data and trends from the transactions. We can see that Promenade Peak, they actually sold at an average of 2,900 per square foot, as high as 3,500 per square foot. For River Green, it actually averaged around 3,100 per square foot up to 3,500 per square foot. And if we see Zion Grand, we have an average of 3,000 PSF, and it went to as high as 3,900 PSF, because this project actually goes up to 62 stories. Okay, so what does this tell us? It gives us an indication of what kind of pricing buyers in this area are willing to accept. With the likes of Promenade Peak and River Green hitting up to 3,500 per square foot, and we have Zion Grand going up to 3,900 per square foot. So I would say if you're able to get a decent ballot number for River Modern, and snag a unit from say 2,009 to even as high as 3,200 PSF, I reckon this would be a good safe entry price with a good price gap with the neighboring new launches. But of course, the devil is in the details. So if we look at the balance units at Promenade Peak and Zion Grand, we do notice some commonalities. So firstly, the larger units like the 3 and 4 bidders, I'll say they have very good pickup. There's not many units available left. But for the smaller units like the 1 and 2 bedrooms, for example, Promenade Peak having a good balance at this point for a lot of the 2-bidder plus study units especially. And both Zion Grand and Promenade Peak do have around half the inventory for the 1-bidder units. So this does give us an indication that perhaps there is a slight oversupply for 1 and 2 bidders in the vicinity. So for River Modern in particular, I will perhaps focus more on the larger formats for the 2-bidder, as well as the family size units like the 3 and 4 bedrooms. In second place, we have none other than the GLS at Bayshore. This is the one that all the East Side lovers have been waiting for. So in short, the East Coast has always been a highly desirable location for both investment and own stay. And the last wave of launches were in District 15. And we saw a complete wipeout of projects like, you can see Emerald of Katong, 100% sold out within launch. And now the projects like Grand Dunman, Tembusu Grand, as well as the Continuum, only have a small balance of units left. With no other decent plots left, the bid at Bayshore ignited interest again in the East Coast area. And with the government having grand plans for the area, planning up to 10,000 homes within the Bayshore area in the coming years, I'll say the Bayshore project will be a great chance to enter from a first mover perspective, especially given that it's right next to Bayshore MRT. And the Thomson East Coast line is definitely a game changer for the area, now with a direct access to go to the CBD as well as town. So the last major launch in District 16 was at Seaside Residences, which I thought would be a good case study to bring up. So we can see a positive trend, with 100% of the owners all making money over here, making profits. And over here you can see some owners actually make capital gain of up to 1.2 million. And we can see that the PSF here has already reached as high as $2,700 per square foot, which is a new high since the project reached TOP a few years ago. So if this Bayshore GLS does indeed range from 2,700 to 2,900 per square foot, I'll say a buyer can be fairly comforted to know that the buyers are already willing to pay this similar price range for resale projects. So now on to first place where we have Thomson View. So in general, I felt that this location has all the ingredients for a winning project. It's close to the Upper Thomson MRT. It's close to Thomson Plaza, of course. It has Ai Tong Primary within the close vicinity. And there has not been a major launch in this area since Jadescape more than 5 years ago, which is why I thought it would be apt to bring Jadescape up as a case study. I feel that these two projects have similar qualities, both being close to the respective MRTs. Both are also in the Thomson vicinity, and they both also have very big land size, which is popular for families looking at good facilities as well as landscaping. So far, in the last 2 years, in the resale market, Jadescape has been transacting at an average of 2,200 per square foot and going up as high as 2,600 per square foot. We can also see a good track record where 100% of the owners have made money, with no one selling at a loss. And owners over here have made more than 1 mil in profits, and one owner even having made up to 4.35 mil in profits. So if Thomson View does range from 2,600 to 2,900 per square foot, I'll say there's indeed some price support from Jadescape as a resale project, already selling at a similar price point. And then also when the Chuan Grove launches launch at an average of 2,700 to 3,000, and that being in OCR, I'll say Thomson View, right in the middle here, will look like pretty good value being given there is a RCR project or city fringe development. So now to our last segment, which is the Dark Horse project. So after much deliberation, I do believe that the Tengah plot is one that will prove to perform well, yet it will not be so looked out during the initial launch. There are a few reasons why. So this will be the first private residential launch to launch in this area, which will have the first mover advantage. And so far over here, it's only been having ECs launch, so this is the first private one. And the key driver is that Tengah is an area of transformation, and one of the key pillars to the development of the Jurong Lake District and the Jurong Innovation District is within Tengah itself, over here. So much so that the residents here are eagerly awaiting the completion of the Jurong Regional Line, over here. And residents of this Tengah GLS will definitely get to enjoy being right next to Hong Kong MRT. So the story unfolding at this Tengah GLS does remind me of a condo not too far away, which is Tree House at Dairy Farm that launched 10 years or so ago. So the Tree House was the first residential project to launch in this area as well, but those who invested early proved to make a smart choice, as eventually the entry price over here eventually was pushed up as more launches launched in this surrounding vicinity. Of course, we can see, Botany, Dairy Farm, Skywoods, Eco Sanctuary and Forest all launched along that stretch. So, with the Tengah GLS, will this Tengah GLS prove to be having the same success as the first mover in this area? Only time will tell, but I'm pretty hopeful. And furthermore, this Tengah plot was won at a surprisingly low land price at $821 per square foot. And this price point is very close to EC pricing at this point because the Senja plot was won at 771 PSF, which is just a 6% price gap. So when this Tengah plot launches, buyers will stand to own a private property at EC pricing, which is an attractive proposition. So to summarize, these are my top 3 picks for new launches for 2026, as well as our Dark Horse project that should be under the radar for most buyers initially. So we have now come to the end of this long video. Of course, it was a pretty lengthy one, but I hope you found the information here useful. If you have queries about the 2026 launches and need an opinion, my contact is here if you require. And do remember to like and subscribe to the channel for more updates. Cheers and see you for the next one. Bye bye.